at the thank you, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu and Gaur Kumar Prabhuji, for such wonderful and soulful, heartfelt kirtan. And thank you, all devotees, for joining us. And I'm very happy to connect with you all today. I seek blessings of Lord Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, that I speak in Guru Parampara. And at the same time, I seek blessings of Gaur Kumar Prabhuji, Krishnan Prabhuji, Nitya Kishori Mataji, Kameshwar Prabhuji, and all your dear Vaishnavas, that I do justice with the chapter. Hare Krishna. So we will do a quick recap. I'll just share my screen. Yeah. So I have shared my screen. I hope it's visible.
Yes, it's
Yes,
visible.
Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, yes. Thank you so much. So let's do a quick recap. So we were discussing the fifth canto from Srimad Bhagavatam, and so far we have been exploring the journey of Bharat Maharaj, who is a great devotee of Lord till his third birth as Jada Bharat. And we all know the story of Jada Bharat, and some other people were carrying the king on the palanquin, and how Jada Bharat walks erratically to avoid, he wanted to avoid stepping over the ants. And this is making King Rahūgaṇa quite angry. And then Jada Bharat replies to the king. And then King Rahūgaṇa actually realizes that I am dealing with a very intelligent and a self-realized person. So King Rahuguna immediately he jumped out of his palanquin and fell at the feet of Jadabharat, and he begged forgiveness. So that was the background of the story. And today we are going to see this chapter 5.11. Jadabharat instructs King Rahuguna. We will talk about what instructions Jadabharat is giving to the king. So if we remember, like last lecture, majorly the theme explored was Vaishnav Aparadh. And today, throughout the chapter, mind is going to be the central theme, and our interaction, all the conversations that we will have, the insights that we will have, all these will like revolve around mind as the topic. So I would invite three devotees to contribute in reading. They can, in total, there are around 17 verses. So they can read like 6 and 5 verses. So once again, yeah. Okay, I see once again. So I see Manjari Gopi Mataji. You can go first. Anybody else who would like to try?
We are not seeing your screen, Mataji, with the verses.
Is it visible now?
No, Mataji, we are seeing your PowerPoint.
Okay. I hope it's visible now. Yeah. Okay. So, Manjari Gopi Mataji, you can go first 6 verses. You can go ahead.
Okay. Let me zoom in a bit so that I can see it more clearly.
Or yeah, I can also zoom in if you want.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, this is good. This is good. The Brahmana Jad Bharat said, "My dear king, although you are not at all experienced, you are trying to speak like a very experienced man. Consequently, you cannot be considered an experienced person. An experienced person does not speak the way you are speaking about the relationship between a master and a servant or about material pains and pleasures. These are simply external activities. Any advanced, experienced man considering this absolute truth does not talk in this way. My dear king talks of the relationship between the master and the servant, the king and the subject, and so forth, are simply talks about material activities. People interested in material activities, which are expounded in the Vedas, are intent on performing material sacrifices and placing faith in their material activities. For such people, spiritual advancement is definitely not manifest. A dream becomes automatically known to a person as false and immaterial. And similarly, one eventually realizes that material happiness in this life or the next, on this planet or a higher planet, is insignificant. When one realizes this, the Vedas, although an excellent source, are insufficient to bring about direct knowledge of the truth. As long as the mind of the living entity is contaminated by the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, his mind is exactly like an independent, uncontrolled elephant. It simply expands its jurisdiction of pious and impious activities by using the senses. The result is that the living entity remains in the material world to enjoy and suffer pleasures and pains due to material activity. Because the mind is absorbed in desires for pious and impious activities, it is naturally subjected to the transformations of lust and anger. In this way, it becomes attracted to material sense enjoyment. In other words, the mind is conducted by the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. There are 11 senses and 5 material elements, and out of these 16 items, the mind is the chief. Therefore, the mind brings about birth in different types of bodies among demigods, human beings, birds, and animals, animals and birds. Yes. When the mind is situated in a higher or lower position, it accepts a higher or a lower material body. The materialistic mind, covering the living entity's soul, carries it to different species of life. This is called continued material existence. Due to the mind, the living entity suffers or enjoys material distress and happiness. Thus, being thus illusioned, the mind further creates pious and impious activities and their karma, and thus the soul becomes conditioned.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Manjari Gopi Mataji. We can have Kameshwar Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
The mind makes the living entity within this material world wander through different species of life, and thus the living entity experiences mundane affairs in different forms as a human being, demigod, fat person, skinny person, and so forth. Learned scholars say that bodily appearance, bondage, and liberation are caused by the mind. When the living entity's mind becomes absorbed in the sense gratification of the material world, it brings about his conditioned life and suffering within the material situation. However, when the mind becomes unattached to material enjoyment, it becomes the cause of liberation. When the flame in a lamp burns the wick improperly, the lamp is blackened. But when the lamp is filled with ghee and is burning properly, there is bright illumination. Similarly, when the mind is absorbed in material sense gratification, it causes suffering, and when detached from material sense gratification, it brings about the original brightness of Krishna consciousness. There are 5 working senses and 5 knowledge acquiring senses. There is also the false ego. In this way, there are 11 items for the mind's functions. O hero, the objects of the senses, such as sound and touch, the organic activities, such as evacuation, and the different types of bodies, society, friendship, and personality are considered by learned scholars the field of activity for the functions of the mind. Sound, touch, form, taste, and smell are the objects of the five knowledge acquiring senses. Speech, touch, movement, evacuation, and sexual intercourse are the objects of the working senses. Besides this, there is another conception by which one thinks this is my body, this is my society, this is my family, this is my nation, and so forth. This 11th function of the mind is called the false ego. According to some philosophers, this is the 12th function and its field of activity is the body. The physical elements, nature, the original cause, culture, destiny, and the time element are all material causes. Agitated by these material causes, the 11 functions transform into hundreds of functions and then into thousands and then into millions. But all these transformations do not take place automatically by mutual combination. Rather, they are under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The individual soul, bereft of Krishna consciousness, has many ideas and activities created in the mind by the external energy. They have been existing from time immemorial. Sometimes they are manifest in the awakening state and in the dream state, but during deep sleep, unconsciousness, or trance, they disappear. A person who is liberated in this life, Jivan Mukta, can see all these things vividly. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Kameshwar Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Nupur.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, welcome.
There are two kinds of Kshetragya, the living entity as explained above, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is explained as follows. He is the all-pervading cause of creation. He is full in himself and is not dependent on others. He is perceived by hearing and direct perception. He is self-effulgent and does not experience birth, death, old age, or disease. He is the controller of all the demigods, beginning with Lord Brahma. He is called Narayana, and he is the shelter of living entities after the annihilation of this material world. He is full of all opulences, and he is the resting place of everything material. He is therefore known as Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By his potency, he is present within the heart of all living entities, just as the air or vital force is within the bodies of all living beings, moving and non moving. In this way, he controls the body. In his partial feature, the Supreme Personality of Godhead enters all bodies and controls them. My dear King Rahūgaṇa, as long as the conditioned soul accepts the material body and is not freed from the contamination of material enjoyment, and as long as he does not conquer his six enemies and comes to the platform of self realization by awakening his spiritual knowledge, he has to wander among different places and different species of life in this material world. The soul's designation, the mind, is the cause of all tribulations in the material world. As long as this fact is unknown to the conditioned living entity, he has to accept the miserable condition of the material body and wander within this universe in different positions. Because the mind is affected by disease, lamentation, illusion, attachment, greed, and enmity, it creates bondage and a false sense of intimacy within this material world. This uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity. If one neglects it or gives it a chance, it will grow more and more powerful and will become victorious. Although it is not factual, it is very strong. It covers the constitutional position of the soul. O king, please try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Do this with great care. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Nupur. Thank you, dear devotees, for reading the chapter. Now I'll chant Mangalacharan. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, everyone. I'll just quickly share the screen. Okay. Just 1 second. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. 1 second.
Oh,
Okay, so we saw this as the first slide. Moving forward, this entire chapter, if you see, it's divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 parts. Like material absorbed people cannot understand tattva. Then we have two sections that talks about mind, like how the mind is the cause of entanglement. Then we get to see the functions of the mind. And then after that, we get to see a liberated soul is actually absorbed in the Supreme Lord. And lastly, we will understand how deliverance of the conditioned soul from illusion. Something else. Yeah. Moving forward, let's understand the tone of the verses of this chapter. So, generally, when we read any particular chapter, we see the Sanskrit, the translation, the poem, we see the prose, the purports, but it's also important, like, for us to connect ourselves to the mood of the speaker in this chapter. So, let's get connected with what Jad Bharat has his mood as a speaker in this particular chapter. So here Jada Bharat is speaking to King Rahūgaṇa in a very rebuking way. We need to understand that sadhus in olden times they used very harsh words. They used to speak in an instructional way and used to test the reaction of the recipients. Like they checked if the recipient is tolerant or humble, and based on that, they used to share their spiritual knowledge. So we also know that even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has stressed on the importance of humility and tolerance as the quality to be able to receive spiritual knowledge. So externally, it may seem like Jada Bharat is using harsh words, etc. But actually, that is Vaishnava's mercy. Jada Bharat is distributing his mercy by speaking those words in a very heavy or in little bit like a harsh way. And when Vaishnavas distribute their mercy, we should not only listen through our ears, but we need to receive it in our hearts so that our hearts get purified. So when we see this picture, we have seen a similar kind of scene, a chariot or a palanquin in the background. A person is standing on one side, and we see there is a king who is very opulent and he's sitting on his knees. And can anybody tell me, like, where have you seen such similar setting? Does this picture remind you of some similar setting in some other places? Uh,
Anup says Bhagavad Gita.
yes, perfect, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Nupur. Thank you, Gaur Kumar Prabhuji. So, exactly, we get to see Lord Krishna and Arjun. Even this setting is similar. So, this is how spiritual knowledge flows from a spiritually realized person to a person who is eager, who is humble, and who is tolerant to gain that knowledge. Let's move further. In one of the purports, Srila Prabhupada compares this particular situation with what Arjuna went through in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So, before the war, Arjuna had some different plans. And to justify his plans, Arjuna starts raising various arguments like Pandita. And he was quoting from other Shastras like Nyaya Shastras or Niti Shastras. Arjuna personally estimated this situation and was trying to justify it. And Arjuna, though after justifying, he became extremely confused. So Krishna begins by, he first smiles and then he starts chastising Arjuna, saying that you are speaking such learned words, but your behavior is not like a Pandita. So you speak like Pandita, but you are not behaving like Pandita. So we get to see that how Lord took the position of a teacher and chastised his student. So this was my personal realization while making this particular slides and understanding the chapter mood and everything. Like the chastisement from Vaishnava is actually the mercy from Vaishnavas. And when Lord is chastising Arjuna, is actually distributing his mercy upon Arjuna. So also we understand from these two examples of discussion between Jada Bharat King Rahūgaṇa and Arjun Krishna is that spiritual discussions are not ordinary discussions. They are full of wisdom and we see mercy into that. They are not casual conversations between spiritual master and disciple. So we'll move next. So this is the purport in verse 1 of the same chapter. And if you read over here, would somebody like to just unmute and read this, the ones that is highlighted over here?
Yes, Mataji. Similarly, among people in general, 99.9% try to talk like experienced advisors, but they're actually devoid of spiritual knowledge and are therefore like inexperienced children speaking nonsensically. Consequently, their words cannot be given any importance. One has to learn from Krishna or his devotee.
Yes, thank you, Gaur Kumar Prabhuji. Thank you so much. So after reading this particular lines, it feels like, that Srila Prabhupada is actually using very heavy words when he said that 99.9% they try to talk like experienced advisors, but they are devoid of spiritual knowledge. So it may sound like an allegation, against the masses of the world. So we will understand further that most of the people will base their statements on their perceptions. Many arguments that we make is actually based on our perception of the situation. If something is right or if something is wrong that we feel is actually coming out of our individual logic. Next, this is the concept I actually referred to His Grace Nimai Lila Prabhuji. And to be honest, dear devotees, I don't feel myself qualified to even touch this topic, but just sharing with you all because this is something that I learned and I found this extremely interesting. So I just thought of including in the lecture and I'm just sharing what I have learned. So, to explain all this in detail, Prabhuji gave us a very wonderful understanding on how perceptions can be many a times deceiving. So, I'll just explain with the help of a diagram. So, you will see this outermost circle. So, most of the people they will define this perception at three layers. So, you will get to see three different circles. This is the outermost circle where a person is having a perception at a very external or superficial level. So, some people look at this from a very external and superficial layer. At this layer, they look at rituals and practices of that particular tradition or cultural system, etc. But when one goes even more deeper into practices, one who gets connected to the tradition, they will look at the values. These people know more details of the practices because all these rituals and practices themselves are rooted in some certain values. So the ritual and practices are the external expression of those values. But sometimes there are situations like, which value to apply in which situation can be debatable. Like, for example, should I be gentle? Like, there is a situation, and I may come up with this thought in my mind, like, should I be gentle or should I be little bit strong in giving my feedback? So sometimes values become a subject of great debate, and many a times these kind of debates has no conclusion at all, and therefore one has to go even more at a deeper level. 1 second. Here you will see the innermost circle, and this is the layer of principles. So principles usually they never change. Principles is something that we understand by studying the Shastras. And by being rooted in Srila Prabhupada books, when we understand the principles, we will know that what is the basis of those values. Next, we will understand this particular concept better with the help of an example. So, we will see there is a popular practice of following vegetarianism. So it's a practice among many spiritual tradition. Like we look at vegetarianism just as a practice. So here we look at food and nutritional point of view. Then there are enough arguments on both the sides. Like vegetarians can argue that because we have less acid in the stomach and we are not able to digest the meat, etc. That's why vegetarianism is preferred. But we also get to see there are arguments against vegetarianism also, and they will say that vegetarians will not get enough nutrition. The plant-based diets they are deficient of vitamin B12 and vitamin D, etc. So we keep on arguing on practices level and food and nutritional level. We can never come to any consensus. There can never be any conclusion. So therefore, we need to follow we go a little bit deeper, and we follow vegetarianism because we uphold this value of ahimsa. So it's one of the most important pillars of like Vedic traditions. So understanding the values of any practices become essential, or it becomes at a superficial practice. So for example, we get to see a strict vegetarian. A person can be a strict vegetarian but is always angry and have hatred towards others and will speak harsh words. They will always bash the ones who are meat eaters, let's say. So they are actually failing to understand the values of those practice of vegetarianism. So we will go a bit deeper. Why are we upholding ahimsa? So what is so special about ahimsa? So it's the practical manifestation of principle of soul. When we look at ahimsa and vegetarianism from a soul point of view, from an atma tatma jnana, and here the principles will never change. Scriptures will talk about soul that is in every living being, and the way to respect that soul is ahimsa. And even if we check Srila Prabhupada, he has never translated ahimsa. He has never translated ahimsa as just non-violence. So the definition given by Srila Prabhupada is that ahimsa is to not disrupt the spiritual progress of living entities. I repeat, Srila Prabhupada has defined ahimsa as something, he has defined ahimsa to not disrupt the spiritual progress of any living entities. So, such deep understanding comes when we are rooted in the principles. So, I hope I was able to justify this very heavy topic. Next, I would just like to ask that what do you think, devotees? Do you think like all these three layers are important? You can just unmute and you can speak. Do you think like only rituals are important, values, principles are not important, or values, principles are important, rituals are not important, or do you feel like all the three layers are important?
So, first of all, this is brilliant, Mataji. Thank you so much. This is so amazing to think of, to understand something in depth. This provides a very, very practical and very, very relevant framework. So, thank you for bringing this and presenting it here. And as to the questions, do you think all three layers are important? Uh, yes, I definitely think all three layers are important. Um, of course, like in India, often there is an allegation that we um, do rituals and practices without understanding the principles, without understanding the spirit behind them, and all that. So, but I would still say that yes, that does not underscore the importance of the ritual itself. That does not mean we stop doing the ritual itself. It only means that we add that values, add the principles, understand the principles while we do the rituals.
Yeah.
So that is something I wanted to say. And another other question I have is like you've presented values and principles as two separate things. So, and it is somewhat clear from the example you gave about vegetarianism also. But is there a very clear-cut difference between values and principles? If you
Okay,
can,
Ji.
or what that clear-cut difference can be, like how do we understand what are values and how do we understand what are principles?
Okay, thank you for your question, Prabhuji, and I completely agree with you. Like, I'll just answer the question as well. So, like, yes, in India, like even I have experienced like the ritualistic practices, and when we go and ask, especially the seniors in our families, like, why are we practicing? And then there is no answer on why are we practicing. So, I think the why comes from values and principles. As per my understanding so far, values can be like the like tolerance, humility, or ahimsa, like non-violence, etc. But when we go even deeper, then there are some tattvas. There are some tattvas or principles, and principles can never change. They are always there, and values are expression of principle, and rituals and practices are expression of values. That was my understanding, Prabhuji. I think more than me, if some other devotee would like to explain more on your question, definitely I'm open for that. Um,
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes, yes, you can go ahead. I think.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare
Fir-
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
First of all, you made me so happy by mentioning His Grace Nimai Leela Prabhu. So he's
Yes,
one of my favorite teachers, and
yes.
this framework is absolutely brilliant. So even I think that all three are I agree with Jagannath Gopal Prabhu. All three are very critical,
Mm-hmm.
and the rituals too are especially critical because the rituals become critical if they remind us of the principles. So if
Yes,
we do the rituals while remembering the principles, then the rituals become even more powerful for us. But if we do them mindlessly, then they will become just like a ritualistic practice. So I just thought I'll share that. But I love the question about the difference between values and principles. I'd love somebody else to share their perspective on that.
yes. Thank you so much, Krishna Prabhuji, for giving your insights. I totally agree with you. And somebody else who would like, I think Gaur Kumar Prabhuji and Manjari Gopi Mataji, they have raised their hands.
Manjari Gopi Mataji can go first. She raised before.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare
Uh,
Krishna
this
Prabhuji.
Bhagavad Chaitanya, I really loved each slide so far, and it's very, um, it's amazing to see how you are presenting it and very easy to understand. I really like this presentation of ritual values and principles. And as I am thinking more deeply, how do you, what do you think, like where do we start? Because I'm thinking if usually I've seen like two extremes. Either we are, as you also mentioned, at the level of rituals, which often seems too shallow without values and principles, and often people leave the rituals or question them. And if we start with principles directly, then it seems more lofty or far away and doesn't easily connect. So I feel it. Do you think is it the values part which resonates more, and through that, we can go like to make people understand about ritual or make ourselves understand rituals easily and have a choice of going deeper to the principles and taking shelter of scriptures?
Okay, very nice question, Prabhuji. I'll just try to answer you from my understanding. And of course, like whatever this slide is all about, like as Krishnan Prabhu said, this is everything from Nimai Lila Prabhu. So the way I've understood like about my journey, at least I started with rituals and practices directly as like at my age of 10 or 15. I didn't start with principles and values. Maybe I was not matured, and we all are not matured that much. So we all start with rituals and practices first externally. When we understand all these rituals and practices, and when we start asking logic, we start asking why are we practicing this ritual and practice, then the next part in the journey would be just understanding the values behind those rituals and practices. And then our faith can go even more deeper when we go inside and when we find those values which are actually mentioned in shastras, what shastras have to say. So our faith can be deepened from an external superficial level to like shastric level. So that's what I felt like. That was my answer, Prabhuji. I don't know if I have justified your question. But if anybody else would like to speak and they can ask, they can talk. Gaur Kumar Prabhuji, Manjari Gopi Mataji, anybody else?
I think Vallabh Chetan Prabhu unmuted. You have anything else to add, Prabhu?
No, I think I get your point, Mataji. My question was more toward like how, yes, I agree, like, we often start with rituals, but usually we also end up not going deeper and leaving the rituals. So I was just contemplating on this, that should the values be adopted, because that seems more, uh, I don't know, reliable.
Mm-hmm.
From there, the person can go at the ritual level also. And if they have a choice to go deeper at the principle level also. And do you think, is it more like, as I'm looking at it more and more, it seems like the rituals are more at the body level, like action items. The values are more on the mind and behavior, and the principles go deeper at the heart level.
Yes, perfect, Prabhuji. I totally agree with you. So these are like external, and these are also required definitely expression to, because this is something that you can pass on, right? You can pass on the practices. These are the expression, but these needs more explanation. These will take more time for passing. To develop somebody's faith, it takes time, and yeah, that's how. Yes, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu.
This is a very beautiful Q&A. I love the question. I love the answer also. And yeah, I agree that we start with rituals. We start with particular actions initially. As you mentioned, yeah, during childhood, we are very naive and innocent and not mature enough to understand even the values, so to say, behind the things that we do. But I guess one big gap that happens in India, and that happened with me to some extent, for sure, and this happens with everybody to some extent, is that for whatever reason, it could be our own karma, it could be the free will of people who guide us or whatever, that connect between the rituals and values is not made evident enough or clear enough to us. And
Absolutely.
when now the thing is, I feel any reasonable person will question at some point if they are being told to do certain ritual. Then however young they may be, however, at least when they develop some level of understanding,
Mm-hmm.
that can be roughly translated to teenage, for example, in today's day and age, right? When somebody reaches teenage, or when somebody gets that little bit of a questioning ability, little bit of a discriminating ability, they will question as to, hey, why am I doing this? Hey,
Yeah.
okay, you're telling me to do Gayatri every day after Upanayanam, but why am I supposed to do Gayatri every day after Upanayanam? And things like that. One might have that question, and initially that question is very innocent. It's not like a rebellious question. That question comes from a genuine place of inquiry. But then, for whatever reason, when we don't get those answers from our surroundings, or we get the answer that, oh no, you have to do it. You have to do it. It's being done throughout generations in your family. That's why you have to do it, and there is no
Mm-hmm.
other way. Otherwise, you will rot in hell and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But such kind of things are said, then that the values get disconnected from the rituals, and
Yes.
that's where the biggest disconnect happens, and then the person ends up leaving the ritual itself. And uh,
And I have also seen like many people then they turn to atheism.
yeah, they turn to
Yeah.
atheism.
Because
And
they don't find any values or any reason to follow those practices.
yeah, yeah.
So, yes, Gaur Kumar Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I think you have a lot more to cover. So if there
Yes,
is time in the end, I will speak, but
sure,
please continue.
Prabhuji.
Please continue.
Sure, yeah, sure. Thank you, Prabhuji. So I'll just mention again what Nimai Leela Prabhu said more on this particular topic. Like as practicing devotees, many a times like our faith may come from cultural impressions or social impressions, and he termed that as Laukika Shraddha. So it's a very good linking point to connect ourselves. But if we want to deepen our faith, then Laukika Shraddha has to be transformed into Shastriya Shraddha. So many people just look at these practices from outside with shallow understanding and just pass their judgments from their own limited logic. And as practicing spiritual seekers, we need to go even more deeper. So if you see properly, okay. If you remember, like Srila Prabhupada mentioned that 99.9% they speak like a pandita, but they are not actually they are devoid of spiritual knowledge. So Srila Prabhupada has given us such a great opportunity, and he's trying to include us in that 0.1%, and that we should transform our faith from the Laukik Shraddha to Shastriya Shraddha, and he has given us that opportunity. So moving forward, so Maharaj Rahūgaṇa says that, O great Jada, the soul is not fat or thin, but the fact is that the soul is in the body. The soul is experiencing whatever is happening in the body. So how can you disconnect them? And it's really a brilliant question that Maharaj Rahūgaṇa is asking. So he gives a very beautiful example of when we make a sweet rice, we put rice inside the milk, and milk is put in the pot, and then pot is put on the fire. So heating of the pot, if you see, when we heat up the pot, that will heat up the milk, that will heat up, and the rice grains will be cooked, right? Because it's close to the milk, it's in close proximity. So everything is connected and has an effect upon each other. So he's asking, indirectly what he means is that external world are transforming information to the senses are transforming information to the mind is passing to the intelligence, and then the impressions are created at the level of the soul. So it means that the soul is experiencing some impressions that are coming out from the external world, and there is a strong link. So how can you disconnect body from soul? So we go through our daily miseries, and we say the soul is suffering. So this seems to be extremely brilliant question asked by King Rahūgaṇa. And in simple words, King is trying to ask, is the soul conditioned by matter? So next, we will understand this that soul is actually unchanging and Prakriti is constantly changing. The world is changing, there are seasons that change, the planet movements, they also change. Our bodies are also changing, the mind also keeps on changing. So King Rahugana questions if, like if paraphrased further, he's asking how is this non-changing soul is getting affected by changing Prakriti. So if soul is unchanging and what is that I feel I'm happy now, I'm sad now, I am a man, I'm a woman, I'm an Indian, I'm an American. So if soul is supposed to be permanent, why it gets influenced by such Prakriti, which is constantly changing? So, this dilemma of how unchanging soul is getting affected by changing Prakriti is actually the subject matter of this chapter. So, Jada Bharat actually elaborates further and he says that between soul and Prakriti, there is an interface called as mind. And mind can be considered to be like that clay dough. You know, children play with those clay doughs, etc. So it can take up the shape of whatever external stimuli it is coming in. Yeah, I mean, whatever external stimuli it gets. So actually, it is the mind that is undergoing the conditionings of the material world. The mind will project on soul, and the soul will misidentify these projections. So, Jada has clarified that it is the mind which is undergoing changes, and because of the ahankara, the false ego, the soul starts identifying with the mind and its changes. So, he has given also, like, I went through this example. So, we get to see these crazy mirrors, right? We get to see them in fun houses. So one mirror will show that we are extremely tall or we are thin or we are distorted. Imagine a person who has never seen himself in the mirror. And imagine they stood in front of these mirrors for the first time. And when they saw themselves, what the person will think? They will think that, oh my God, I'm so fat, I'm thin, I'm distorted, etc. So the question is, has the person changed or his reflection has changed? So actually, his reflection has changed and the person never changes. So because of the misidentification with that reflection, and the whole reference is only mirror. His only reference is only the mirror. The person thinks that he's thin, fat, tall, ugly. So just as how the person doesn't change, the soul will also not change. And someday we are happy, like someday we are sad. It's because of ahankara, the soul starts owning those experiences and says, look, I'm happy person, I'm sad person. So soul will undergo all these experiences because of ahankara. So, the central theme of all spiritual practices is the mind. So, therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, also Krishna says that ultimately, mind can be your best friend or worst enemy. So, now that we know that mind conditioning is actually making the soul experience, so my next question is, do you think like by denying or suppressing the mind, the emotions and the desires, the feelings that we have, will that help to keep us or to keep the soul unaffected? Do you think we need to suppress the mind or control the mind entirely, and the soul will stay unaffected? You can unmute and you can speak up.
Do you mean Mataji control or suppress? Because control, yes, suppress, no.
Okay, control yes, suppress no. Okay, okay. And why, Prabhuji? Like, do you think suppressing your mind will help the soul to stay unaffected?
Because I think the taste remains. the soul still identifies with the mind, and the
Mm-hmm.
mind still has the taste.
Mm-hmm.
So if we suppress it externally, then it's mostly pretentious.
Perfect.
So it has to be slowly controlled and trained.
Perfect, perfect. I totally agree with you. I liked your word when you said it needs to be trained. So that is the word. So thank you so much, Prabhuji. Anybody else would like to go ahead?
So I totally agree with what Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu said. Just
Mm-hmm.
one thing I'll add is this like Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says we can never deny pleasure
Mm-hmm.
to ourselves because we are innately pleasure seeking souls.
Mm-hmm.
So our it's the tendency of the soul to seek pleasure. So and since mind is the interface for us to interact with the world and in that way experience pain and pleasure, we can't really deny pleasure. So he does say he says we can delay pleasure, we cannot deny pleasure is what he says. So
Perfect. Perfect.
I need to go back and see, what he exactly meant by delay pleasure. But
Mm-hmm.
from the way I think of it is delay pleasure is, when we delay pleasure, we either try to find a better way to, a better dharmic way to experience that same pleasure.
Perfect.
Uh,
Okay. Okay.
or that is one way to train the mind, or
Mm-hmm.
engage that same propensity in transcendental activities. That is the more difficult thing to do, but with good guidance, that can also be achieved, and like that. So yeah, we can never deny pleasure because that is our innate. But having said that, also, it does not mean sambhog se samadhi. Also, it does not mean uh,
Mm-hmm.
whatever proclivities are there, they just need to be everything. We can't pander to everything that the mind says. I guess that is also. But at the same time, yeah, abhyasena tu kaunteya, vairagyena cha grihate. In that same verse where Krishna is saying, with practice, with training, you can do. In that, he's also saying vairagya also.
Mm-hmm.
So both are important. Mano durnigraham chalam tasyaham nigraham manya vayuriva sudushkaram. So there he says, what is that? I forget the verse, but basically Krishna says there are two methods to control the mind, bring it under control. One is abhyasa, that is practice, and the other is vairagya or
Yes.
detachment. So
Yes. Yes.
So I
Thank
have
you. Thank
I
you.
have one question on this. So when the mind is, as we already discussed, the interface between the Prakriti and the soul. So what happens when the pure souls they exist in this world? Does the mind acts turns more towards the soul internally, where it is relishing the joy of or getting the taste from through as an interface from the soul, or does it still remain interface between Prakriti and the soul? Like how does the mind works when someone gets self-realized and they are still in this world?
Okay, okay. I think like Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu has asked $1 million question, and I think I have the answer for that, Prabhuji. Just the next slide. I think I can ask you that time, like if
Yeah,
that has
okay.
really answered your
Maybe
question.
Mataji, you can ask, you can answer the question. Just give me the $1 million. I'm good with that.
Okay. So $1 million next slide. So, yes, I mean, yeah, too many references, and I'm also a little bit processing. Amazing Jagannath Gopal Prabhu and Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu. You have increased my interest also. So, yes, definitely, I got this wonderful quote from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, and he says that we can't replace the mind. So, mind cannot be replaced, but we can replace the mind. So this is something a wonderful quote that I got from Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji, and I think if this answers Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu to some extent, where we are not able to replace the mind. So maybe we will also find out what Srila Prabhupada has to say about liberated souls or pure souls. Maybe like they cannot also replace the mind, but they have replaced their mind. They have trained their mind already and they have engaged it. So let's see the next slide. So somebody would like to read?
If
I
you
can read, Madhavi.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, if you train the mind is your best friend. And if you cannot train your mind, then then will then will be your bitterest enemy. Therefore, mind is always to be engaged on the lotus feet of Krishna. Then mind automatically will be controlled and will become friend.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. So I think from the way I've understood so far is that the mind has always to be engaged on the lotus feet of Krishna. So if the mind is trained and is engaged in the services of Guru and Supreme Personality of Godhead, then it's not that the mind is not existing in pure souls or the advanced devotees. Mind definitely exists. We will also check the next particular slide or a quote from Srila Prabhupada. It says that one who acts to serve Krishna with his body, mind, intelligence, and words is already a liberated soul. So these are the liberated soul, even within this material world. They are staying in this material world, but they are liberated souls because they are acting to serve Krishna. So, has this answered Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu? What do you think? That was the question I understood from you.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is that means the mind becomes a tool and it's no more like a, I don't know, like a interface or something that can control the soul anymore.
Yeah, it is not having an effect upon soul. It is working for the soul, but it is doing its job also. Like it has to store some impressions, etc. It is working for the soul. It is not working against the soul when the mind is engaged in Krishna consciousness. So I have one more illustration by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. So maybe I'll ask you that time also if that has answered your question. Moving forward, so even Guru Maharaj, Radhanath Swami Maharaj has also said like peace doesn't come from controlling the world, but it comes from mastering our mind. So we get to see like all the our spiritual masters, Srila Prabhupada, all the spiritualists, they have been talking about mastering our mind. So moving further, let's understand the three weapons to conquer our mind. So
actually, sorry, just one thing I wanted to add. Are you still I mean, okay, what I want to ask is, do you still have to cover something that you think will answer the question?
Mm, yeah, I have few more illustrations, like 4 to 5 slides more.
Okay, okay. Then maybe I'll add my point later. Maybe it'll be clear with your slides, but if
I think because there were few illustration, I think that has given me a full clarity. So I think if that also gives you clarity and then you can add more, I think that will be more helpful.
sounds good, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, thank you so much. So there are three weapons to conquer the mind, and this is something I got from Subodhini by Gaurang Darshan Prabhuji. So he says that first weapon is to neglect. So if you remember, like Jagannath Gopal Prabhu and so many other devotees, they were talking about training your mind. So here, the first thing is we are going to neglect the mind, but not entirely the mind. We are going to neglect the orders of the mind. The second weapon is attentiveness. You need to keep your mind attentive. And like, what do you think? When do we have to keep our mind attentive? So we need to keep it attentive during chanting, reading, hearing, or let's say when our spiritual master or our mentors they are giving any personal instructions. So this attentiveness during grabbing or grasping those instruction or those understanding, etc., that serves as the second weapon to conquer mind. And the third weapon, service and service to whom than to our Guru and Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these are the three weapons. Neglect, you are going to neglect the orders of the mind. I just happened to read a very famous quote, and the quote goes like that. Mind is a wonderful servant and a terrible master. So mind is a wonderful servant. You can use that mind to serve, but when mind becomes your master, then it's a terrible master. So this I can apply over here. Like we really need to neglect the orders of the mind. Attentiveness when services to Guru and Lord. So next, if any one devotee can tell any instances like when you have neglected the orders of your mind and you have continued rendering devotional service. If anybody would like to share their realizations. Has this happened anytime with you when you have neglected, your mind was ordering you, you neglected the order of the mind and you still decided to engage yourself in the services? Are there any realizations that would like to share? Anyone?
When I chant and I'm very sleepy, I stand up and chant or walk and chant.
Okay,
I
perfect,
know,
perfect.
very silly example, but
No, no, perfect, perfect. I think it's applicable, Prabhuji. It's very much applicable and it's very much relatable. This is something like we struggle with this particular thing on a daily basis. So it's not at all silly. It's very much relatable. So, okay, moving further, I hope you got an understanding. Like we are neglecting the orders of the mind, but we still decide to keep on giving the service. So, moving next, I feel this particular illustration will really help you to get the answer. I really hope so. So, I was going through this wonderful book called as "You Are Not Your Mind, You Are Better." So this is the book by His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji, and I got some interesting illustration and just thought of sharing with you all. So he has given a wonderful example for understanding mind as a double agent, how mind works as a double agent. So for this understanding, first we will get into one example. Like let's say there is some country's intelligence and they need a spy for some mission. Now, but the country's intelligence, they suspect that spy to be a double agent, which means the spy is working for this particular country, but the spy is also working for the hostile country. Now, the agent is actually irreplaceable. You cannot replace the spy. You cannot replace this particular agent. So therefore, the country intelligence has to work. Definitely, matlab compulsory it has to work with the spy. But because the agent is unreliable, it's irreplaceable and it's unreliable, the country's intelligence will have to work with constant vigilance. So if we see the mind illustration over here, let's understand. The country's intelligence is the soul, the spy is the mind, and the hostile country is the external world. So now let's understand. Mind acts as a link for gaining information. So definitely we need mind because we need to gain information. It's coming through mind. But here the mind acts as a channel for agitating desires. So here the mind is working for the external world, and it because it gets tempted with external objects, it's working for the external world or for the bodily pleasures. So here the mind is a double agent. If you see here, it's irreplaceable. You cannot replace the mind, but it's also unreliable. So mind is a double agent. So again, that statement given by Srila Prabhupada, if you remember that mind can be your friend or mind can be your worst enemy also. So mind will be best of friends if that starts spying and working for the soul and not external world. So if let's go back to that particular quote of Srila Prabhupada when he said your mind can be friend. So your mind can actually be a friend if it starts working for the soul. But it becomes your enemy if it is taking you away from the soul, if you're getting tempted, if you're getting more attracted with other objects in the external world, etc. So you're going outwards. So, how can you ensure that your mind serves soul's interest? So, basically, we need constant vigilance, carefully observing on a daily basis. We need to regularly remind ourselves which things are important for us and why. So, the like we have to be like alert that our mind works for us and not against us. So let's move to the next topic, next illustration. Again, this is the wonderful illustration. I felt like definitely I'm going to include this. So he says that parenting child is equal to parenting mind, and how unparented mind can degenerate. If you see properly, the restless mind will actually become reckless or careless, and then there are going to be no boundaries. Then the mind will become joyless, and ultimately we start giving sorrows, or we make others joyless. So mind is a child, and that parenting techniques can teach us mind management. And to be honest, like that's how we get to see that elders are able to manage their mind better than the younger ones. Of course, there are exceptions. We also get to see there are some elders who are not able to manage their mind properly. But most of the elders, like if we compare elders and younger people, elders can actually manage their mind because they know the parenting techniques. They already have children. They have learned how to manage children, and that's how they learn to manage their and parent their own mind also. So moving to the next and the last slide. And this is, to be honest, my favorite illustration from the book. And it's $1 million question again. Like, who is defining your identity? Is it your mind, or is it Lord who is defining your identity? So, yeah, who is defining your identity? So, here, if we go, so the mind says, like, you are nothing and you will never be able to do anything worthwhile. You are my precious part, and you will be empowered to play a part in my plan. So if we see, sometimes we tend to get into negative self talking. That is your mind that is talking. But here, when we open Bhagavad Gita, we understand scriptures, we are understanding what Krishna has to say, then we actually are empowering ourselves, and it's a positive self talk. Also, there was some statement given by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, and he says that if we listen to our mind's definition of who we are, here we are listening to mind's definition of who we are, then actually we will lose the battle. But if we listen to God's definition of who we are, we will win the battle. And this actually particular situation reminds me of that scene that we get to see in many short films nowadays, that someone is having suicidal thoughts, and because they identify themselves with mind's definition of who am I, then suddenly they saw Bhagavad Gita. They were about to commit suicide, and suddenly they see Bhagavad Gita. They look at the cover page, and then they start reading Gita. And they actually started identifying with Lord's definition after reading Gita, or while during they read. They start identifying with the Lord's definition of who am I and what is my purpose. And we see that completely shift in their mindset from these mind's definition to Lord's definition. And ultimately, we get to see that the person decides to no more, like not get into suicide and just be a winner and finding the purpose of life, etc. So this was my favorite illustration. I just thought of sharing with you all. Let's go towards the last slide, and then we will come up with some more questions if they are coming. And definitely, it's going to be like a discussion. So this is the text 17. Here we see this uncontrolled mind. This is what Jad Bharat is saying. This uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity. If one neglects it or gives it a chance, it will grow more and more powerful and will become victorious. Next, it covers the constitutional position of the soul. O king, please try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Do this with great care. So, if we read this verse again, this in the same chapter, we will understand that we have whatever is in the red, we have touched those topics today. This uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy. Then we also spoke about like if one neglects it completely, or even if it gives it a chance, the mind will become more and more powerful, and the mind will cover the constitutional position of the soul. We saw that how mind will start working for the external world, will be attracted by the external world, it will stop working for the soul. And please try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet, and also do this with great care. So we also spoke about constant vigilance. We need to be alert, taking care on a daily basis, and using those three weapons to conquer the mind. So, with this, basically today we tried understanding most of the things from this verse. And in the next class, the conversation will continue between Jada Bharat and Maharaj Rahūgaṇa. It will be led by Krishnan Prabhuji. Thank you so much for, coming and interacting on number of questions. And definitely, if I like failed to give proper answers, I would definitely like invite other. We have amazing senior devotees to come up, and if they can answer, I'll be more than happy. So thank you, everyone.
Haribol, Aishwarya Mataji, you're such a good teacher. You're not only a yoga teacher, but actually you are a yoga teacher because you helped us all connect to Krishna through this amazing class. So thank you so much, Mataji, for this wonderful preparation. You heard from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, Gauranga Darshan Prabhu, Nimai Leela Prabhu. So much preparation went into this class, and even though it was a very philosophical chapter, you kept our attention throughout, actually, through your brilliant slides and very thoughtful, deep questions, thought-provoking questions. So thank you so much, Mataji. I'll let others also speak, and then I'll add a few points in the end. Hare Krishna.
Sure. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. I totally second what Gaur Kumar Prabhu said. A wonderful class, and yeah, you're a natural teacher. It's becoming more and more evident the more classes you're giving. So wonderful preparation, wonderful way of presenting. Also, it made it so relevant. It was not just philosophical jargon. You made it very very practical, very relatable, which is actually the need, which is again going back to the point of realization that I was discussing in one of the previous classes. Like Prabhupada says, personal realization is when we are able to present something which is very relevant to the audience, according to the needs of the audience. So this was a brilliant class, and just goes to show your depth of realization about these topics. So thank you very much, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. To be honest, like I have taken the personal inspiration from Gaur Kumar Prabhuji's classes on Jada Bharat. I remember it was many months back, and he mentioned about all three births, and it was truly an experience. And I knew nothing before that, and after hearing about Jada Bharat for the first time, I developed liking for that story. So I give all credits to Gaur Kumar Prabhuji to develop my taste. And at the same time, thank you, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu. You gave me chance to deepen my understanding. You yourself give amazing classes. When you started asking me questions, and it's little bit heavier. This topic is little bit heavier. Maybe I was not that much satisfied answering those questions, but definitely, at least I've started somewhere, and I will learn from all of you by interacting more. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
I have a list, Mataji. I just reach out to devotees in
Mhm.
sequence. There is nothing great I'm doing, so you don't have to thank me for the opportunity. it's something we are trying to do all collectively, and what's been started by Gaur Kumar Prabhu, Nitya Mataji, we are just trying to continue that. So yeah, and yeah, I mean, the way you answered the questions was really nice. There was humility in it as well as there was depth in it. And one thing I really, really appreciated in you is when Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu asked the question, right?
Mhm.
At every opportunity you got after he asked the question, and after you shared your thoughts, I shared your thoughts. Then I shared my thoughts. Then you were asking him at regular intervals, okay, Prabhu, so did this answer your question? Did this answer your question? It actually goes to show, I guess what touches the heart is, I guess what touches the heart more is not the answer itself, but your concern that whether the devotee who asked the question got the answer or not. That concern itself is so sweet. The answer, yes, sure, the answer might come, but that concern is what will touch the heart. So, but thank you very much. I just remembered that.
Yes, thank you so much, Prabhuji,
Hare
for your
Hare
wonderful.
Krishna, Hare Krishna Mataji, and just to add to Jagannath Gopal Prabhu's comment there, there's a famous poet who said that I'll not remember what you said, but I'll remember what you made me feel. So this class, really made, you brought Jaɗa Bharat and his teachings so close to us. And while doing that, you brought such amazing insights, and your slides were so wonderful. You also unpack some gems from Srila Prabhupada's purports, like the one that I'm remembering now is the definition of ahimsa. Is are we doing anything to to uh, to stop somebody from their progress towards Krishna? And that is himsa, and so ahimsa is obviously the opposite of that. And so maybe you can repeat the definition if you remember it. But
So,
amazing class, yeah, amazing class. This was one of the best classes that I've heard in quite some time. So I really want to thank you for this. It was very, very good. Thank you so much.
thank you, Prabhuji. To be honest, like all these glories and all the appreciation, I mean, it goes to Gaurang Darshan Prabhu, Nimai Lila Prabhu, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. I think this complex topic of mind, perception, etc., they have actually simplified it, and I was just parroting their words. So all your appreciation glories I'm passing on to them. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. And yeah, ahimsa, as I remember, he said that he is defining ahimsa as oh, one second, to not disrupt the spiritual progress of living entity. That was the definition. It's at the soul level and it's quite deeper.
Wonderful, wonderful, amazing definition, Mataji. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing that.
Thank you, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Anybody else wants to speak? Anything?
Yes, Haribol. I was so blown away by the slides, and I have a very small mind, and for me to understand all these philosophies, it's very difficult for me to you know um, take away all those points. So it was very simple. It was very simplified. The slides were very easy to understand, and I was 100% attentive in this class. So, and thank you for sharing everything in such a sweet, simple way. So it was an amazing class. I was very excited for this class, and I enjoyed it, and I heard it really nicely. So yes, thank you, Mataji, for this class.
Thank you so much, Manjari Gopi Mataji. You are always very curious and eager to learn. And you're very humble and at the same time so inspiring. And I always like your question. I missed your questions today, but thank you. You didn't ask me much because, to be honest, when Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu and Jagannath Gopal Prabhu they started me asking questions, my heart came out in the mouth, and I was thinking now what is going to happen. So I don't know, something happened, but yeah,
No,
thank you.
but you answered each and every question in such a nice way. You gave your realizations. What simple, right? It was very nice.
Thank you, Mataji. I'll improve further. I'll improve more.
What I
I'm
liked most was your humility, Mataji, as Jagannath Gopal Prabhu also mentioned. How humbly and sweetly you were answering, and that really touched my heart. And for Krishnan Prabhu to say that this is one of the best classes that he has heard is a big statement because he hears classes all the time. And for Manjari Gopi to say that the slides were amazing is also amazing because she creates the best slides that I've ever seen. So these compliments are huge, actually. So I'm very happy to hear these compliments. So I'll just mention a few things about rituals, values, and principles. Because we are all practicing devotees, I won't give materialistic examples. I'll give examples from our devotional life itself. But first of all, I'll just, this is from my notes, I'll just share that. So, rituals actually guide how we express devotion. They guide how we express devotion from inside to outside. That is what rituals do. So, values actually shape who we become as devotees. So values shape who we become as devotees. And the last one is principles actually protect where we are going in our spiritual life. So these are three things that, so all three are important, as Jagannath Gopal Prabhu mentioned. One is rituals guide, the values shape, but the principles protect. So ultimately, the principles are the most important because they actually protect where we are going in our spiritual life. The values may shape who we become as devotees, and the rituals just express our devotion in the external situation. So, let me give you one example. So, let's take the example of japa, which is all of us do chanting japa. So, chanting japa is, you can say, a ritual, I mean, in one sense, because it's externally chanting Hare Krishna mantra on beads. So there is an external expression of devotion. So the what is the value? So if we assume that a person is trying to chant sincerely, then what they'll soon realize is that there's so much distraction, so much inattentiveness, and so on. So the value that comes along with chanting is humility and dependence on Krishna. We constantly keep depending on Krishna to become more attentive. So that is the value that comes. And then what is the principle? The principle is, of course, always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Smartavyam sadatam Vishnur, Vishmartavyo na jatuchit, right? From the Padma Puran. So always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna is the principle. And then it comes out in the value of humility and the ritual of japa. So everything in our devotional life can be treated like this. For example, putting on tilak, right? So putting on tilak is an expression of devotion externally. But what is the value? The value is again humility because we understand the principle, and the principle is that we want to keep our head at the lotus feet of Krishna all the time. So the tilak is actually a mark of Krishna on our head. If we remember like that, then the value, the principle, and the ritual, all three fall in line. So just wanted to share that. Hare Krishna.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Gaur Kumar Prabhuji. I have also noted down, I really liked it. I wish if I could have asked you on that particular slide. I think it would have created more effect. Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
And about controlling the mind, I've heard this phrase control the mind all the time. But the word control has a negative connotation. So I don't like to use the word control, controlling anybody, controlling the mind. Even the mind also has to be treated as a friend. The more you become a friend with your mind, the more the mind will start helping you achieve your goals. So when you're chanting or whenever anything is happening, treat your mind as your friend. Your friend is trying to tell you something, and then you have conversations with your mind. So then it will become more peaceful, actually. Otherwise, if you try to control, there's always passion, agitation, and so on. So just wanted to mention that as well. Thank you. Hare Krishna. And very quickly, so in terms of watching this movie, Mahavatar Narasimha, so today our very dear Kameshwar Prabhu is going to watch the movie in a couple of hours. So please give us a review, Prabhu, of the movie. We are all waiting eagerly in the US. We're trying to reach out to to those people who are actually helping with getting the screen, getting the movie in New York and New Jersey. So how are you, Prabhu? Kameshwar
Yeah,
Prabhu?
sure, Prabhu.
How are you? Are you
Sure,
excited?
Prabhu. Yeah, very much, sir. Can't wait, sir. Waiting
I'll
for it.
I'll video call you, Kameshwar Prabhu. You can show me
Yes.
the movie on video.
So, when are you planning, Prabhu? All of you going together?
It's not released, Prabhu. That's the problem. It's not released.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
that
30th, you are telling 2 days more. Okay.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Jagannath Gopal Prabhu, back to you.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, dear devotees. Thank you, Aishwarya Mataji. So we'll wrap up for today. Let's meet next Tuesday again for another wonderful class. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंतकोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, हर ग्रेस ऐश्वर्या माता जी की जय।
Hare 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 Krishna. Thank you.